I browsed a few different reviews and then I read two of them,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them said something to the effect of, "This is Nintendo's best game ever," and then another one said, "This quite possibly might be the best game ever made."
I did see I did see that was like a thing.
So at least the reviewers like it.
Yeah, clearly that was like a thing.
So at least the reviewers like it. Ethan, seriously, man,
Okay, I need
get out of my shit.
pop out, copy.
That's what you get, sir.
Paste.
So what are you up to this evening?
Oh, I've been mostly just figuring
Waiting.
out, figuring out or reading up on Ryzen and that sort of thing. I can't say I've really done a whole lot else though.
Well, that's a bummer. Do you know if your ship has shipped?
It has not, at least
Aww.
not to my knowledge, which is I mean, is what it is, I guess. I wish
bummer.
I wish it would get shipped. I wish it would get shipped tonight so I could have it tomorrow. Whether that actually happens or not, that's a whole nother issue.
Ethan, I'm gonna kick you in the patoot.
As of this moment, we need a little more time to provide you with a good estimate. We'll notify you via email as soon as we have an estimate. Awesome. I love when my things don't ship on launch day. It's my personal favorite.
Bitter.
I'm extremely bitter by this, actually. See what's I guess disappointing to me is that the gaming performance isn't. It's not just. It's lower than I expected it would be, considerably.
But are you even gonna see a whole lot of CPU bottlenecking with a 1070?
At 1440p, probably more GPU bottlenecked with a 1070. Because what I did notice about a lot of the benchmarks I was seeing was at 4K, it was right there. In fact, even at 4K, the 8350 was about on par with the Ryzen chip. So it's because it's so GPU bottlenecked. Because it's right. Rendering so few frames that it that it's just over. It just sort of has it just has issues delivering enough information to the processor for the processor to really lose track of things. By the way, Aaron, if you were watching the stream, we have comments starting to roll in. News I know news about Ryzen APUs. I've heard nothing other than that they're coming eventually. Although I was watching, and it sounds like from what I've seen today, the way AMD is releasing things is sort of like a top-down approach. Like they're starting with R7s, and then the R5s will come Q2, and it sounds like the R3s will probably be the last ones to release. So I assume that after the R3s come out, that would be when you would start hearing more about the APUs. So I haven't heard a whole lot about them though.
So probably like second half of the year or later.
That would be my guess.
So Vega Vega.
Yeah, and the thing about Vega and the GPU side of things is AMD is essentially, I think it was maybe last year that they did this, but they basically split their GPU side of things as almost like a completely separate division and let it run pretty much independently from the CPU side. So I don't know that you'll really see I don't know that Vega coming out is gonna really set the calendar for the CPU side of things, like it might used to have when it was a little bit more of a commodity. Now, obviously, they're not gonna stack their products, I don't think, but I think that Vega's sort of on its own timeline, at least from my understanding of things.
Vega's not too far off, is it?
Vega's supposed to be Q2, I think.
That's kind of what I thought.
RX 470 and an A8 7650K. My CPU bottlenecks my GPU. 7650K. I got a Newegg this thing.
What? 7650?
It's an Athlon. It's an A8 Athlon.
Oh. I was thinking.
Yeah. It's
no,
it's not an it's not an Intel part. So that's one of the quad core 3.3 gigahertz. The best way to combat the bottlenecking would be to if at all possible, if at all feasible, overclock the crap out of it. Because the thing about those and it was true of the old architecture of AMD. Those AMD chips really overclock well, but aside from replacing a 7650K, and that's applicable to any processor, I guess, that any sort of processor that bottlenecks a GPU, the only real way to combat that is to overclock it or replace it, one of the two. Unfortunately, there's another disappointing side is it doesn't look like Ryzen overclocks all that well. Aaron, I don't know if you've seen.
I haven't seen
that.
any overclock numbers. I just saw a couple of benchmarks.
It looks like, because I was watching I think it might have been Paul's Hardware, that he was able to get about 4.0.
Boost to 4.
Right. And the way the boost works, and I wasn't really aware of this as much either, but the way the boost sort of works is the boost is more for single thread performance. So in the testing that I've seen from the reviews I've watched, a lot of times you'll get that big boost clock to 4.1 or so, but it'll only be on a couple threads.
Then just straight up overclock it.
Right, but when you're overclocking 8 threads, then that limits you because...
You mean 8 cores?
8 cores, right, 16 threads. If you could, and the other frustrating part is AMD released a video today where they were talking about what, like, oh, well, on water and on like good air you can get 4.2 and water you might be able to get 4.2, 4.3 somewhere in that area. And apparently they told the reviewers, at least, and I'm pretty sure it was Paul's Hardware there too, that the AMD sort of suggested not to run more voltage than stock voltage. So he didn't. So I'm really curious what kind of voltage you can really push into them.
Do you know what the stock voltage is?
1.35.
Wow, that's a little higher than I would have thought.
At least that's what that's the number that I remember. Stock cooler on the A8. If you have a stock cooler on an old AMD processor, it's gonna sound like a jet engine if you overclock it, and it'll sound like a jet engine constantly too. In that case, if it's feasible at all, I'd replace the A8 because if you're running a 470, you don't need the integrated graphics anyway. If you're really going for a budget and you want maybe a slight amount of performance, there's some Athlon by 4s that are under $100. An 860K that overclocks pretty well, and you don't have the AP. I mean, that's not going to really give you much extra performance, but it might give you a little bit. But I would just hold off and just replace the whole the processor side. See, for me, even with the gaming benchmarks though, and this is the thing that I think that AMD was really targeting, is that for me and for a lot of people like me that like to stream and they like to game, but they also do some video. Anybody that does any kind of video editing on the side is excited because it gives you. It's not like Ryzen gives you bad performance. It's just that it doesn't give you near the single thread performance that the Kaby Lake parts do. I mean, it competes with the 6900K. The Kaby Lake parts just destroy both the Broadwell E and the Ryzen parts. What I'm really hoping is that AMD can find a way, maybe not even this generation, but like in future generations, to refine the architecture a little bit so that they can get some of those, especially the quad core ones, they can get better clocks out of them so they can compete a little bit better on the single threaded performance with at least their quad cores. Because I don't think there's an expectation for you to compete on single threaded performance when you're running 8 cores. That's not the nature of an 8 core.
Especially when you're comparing it to a 4 core.
Right.
Like a lot of people are trying to with the 7700K.
Right. And me and you talked a bunch. It's not a heads up it's apples and oranges what they're doing. The better comparisons are the X99 comparisons. Those are the ones that it's actually. See, the problem is AMD's price point, especially with the 1700, is putting the 1700 against the 7700K, but the architecture of it pits it up against the X99 chips. It's not even AMD is taking a different market and putting a different price point on. It's like they're putting the wrong price point on the market, which is why I'm still a little bit floored that they put the 1800X at the price they did.
As in too high or too low?
Too low. I was one of the people that was feeling like I'd be super happy if they were matching $1,000 or an $1,100 part or getting close. If they would have put the part at $700, I felt like that would be extremely disruptive. Putting it at $500 is crazy disruptive. What I expected a little bit more was something like an 8-core, like their top 8-core part. Like I expected the 1800X to be something like 700, maybe like the 1700X. Would be 100 or 150 lower. Although I think part of the problem with that price model, now that I know this, I didn't know it at the time, but part of the problem with that price model is that the 1700X is almost, it's a lot like the 1800X. Like you can't make the price gap that big, otherwise no one's buying the 1800X. $100 I already feel is like a big price gap.
So what are the differences other than clock speed between the two?
To my knowledge, that's about it. They have the same cache. They have the same amount of PCIe lanes.
Which is how many?
I think it's 24 right now. I think it's 24. With the I believe the X370 chipset can add PCI lanes. But it runs it through the ones that adds run through the chipset. So, and Intel's done that before too. So that's not a new. That's why if you're an enthusiast and you want to use like NVMe drives, it's smart to get the X370 because you have lanes dedicated to a NVMe drive. Because you're already eating up 16 lanes on a graphics card.
Yeah.
So, hopefully Amazon gets my order out soon because I'm chomping at the bit to get my hands on it.
So what are you going to do tomorrow night when you have no chip and you're all alone and it's Friday night?
I guess I'll hang out with Cameron. or game. I don't know. What was the $178 Ryzen chip off the top of your head? Do you know, Aaron?
$175 was the 1300.
I had this pulled up last night.
1300, I believe.
Okay, so the lineup, the 175 is the 1300, and that's the Quad core, 8 thread.
Yes.
3.2 to, is that 3.6 as a turbo?
I have no idea.
Anyways, the question is, since you don't have it pulled up, is the $178 Ryzen chip, at least leaked 175. Do you think it'll be good? 4-core, 8 thread for that price point?
Hang on, let me pull this up. We will see. I don't know.
See, this particular chart that I have sort of pulled up shows the processors that the different Ryzen chips are competing against, and that particular price point is going to be competing against like the i5 75 or 7400, and the i5 is going to, I would think, would beat it in games. I would think.
I would think so too.
Because Ryzen cores apparently aren't. Although the 70, see, this is where it gets hard because the 7400 is a $190 part, and it's only 3 gigahertz with a boost up to 3.5, and the Ryzen chip in question is a 3.2 to 3.5 part. So their boost clocks are the same. And the Ryzen chip has 8 threads on 4 cores, and the i5 has just 4 physical cores. I think
yeah, but those cores are better.
Yeah, they are. The IPC is a little bit better. Though, I mean, the IPC isn't crazy. The big thing with the 7700K, and I think the reason that it has, for the most part, in gaming benchmarks, creamed Ryzen is because it has a what's its boost? 4.5. Whereas the 4.5
hertz clocks, right?
Yeah, it boosts up to 4.5, yeah. But the 7400 boosts up and equals the Ryzen frequency.
Well.
So I still the IPC is still better in Intel's favor. It's just I think the gap gets a little more narrow with that.
Yeah. But on the other hand, how much will you be able to overclock the Ryzen chip with the stock cooler?
Well, if the leaks are to be believed, it should actually overclock okay. Depending on which, I'm not sure which cooler the lower end ones will ship with. The stock coolers in general are supposed to be better for Ryzen.
Yes.
Because they're sort of like the almost Wraith Gen 2 coolers is what they remind me of, except they have RGB lighting because that's the selling point. That's why you buy your processors, for RGB lighting.
Yeah.
I'll admit it's a nice touch. It's just unnecessary. No, I feel like the number of people that would pass on Ryzen because the cooler wasn't RGB is minimal. I think with that, provided that the IPC comes very close to the 7400, I think you'd be a little bit crazy not to get the Ryzen part, because the Ryzen part is $15 cheaper when it comes out. Granted, the 7400 might drop in cost by then too. But it's a $190 part versus $175. So you save your $15, you get very nearly equal performance, and you have 8 threads. So if you do anything that's a ton, and you don't do like, if you do a little bit, even just a tiny bit from multi-thread workload, then it's worth, because you have 8 threads. 8 threads is always better than 4. All else being equal. Here's a good question. Don't take offense, but did you get your inspiration for the name for your channel from Paul's Hardware? Sort of. Kind of. No, in all honesty, I think the reason I picked Hoosier Hardware is because I wanted a channel that was tech involved, and which deals a lot with hardware. And since I watched Paul's Hardware, the idea of having a channel called Blank Hardware is there. And being from Indiana, Hoosier Hardware kind of flows pretty well. So I would say that definitely, I mean, it probably influenced. I would be, if his channel never existed, I probably never would have named it Hoosier Hardware. because I probably wouldn't have thought to use the word hardware. At least I think so. Though who knows? I do like that you have HH going on. Because I've also flirted with the idea of at some point I might change the logo, because you remember Coach Bridge in high school. I could, instead of HH, I could just do the logo with like H squared. Maybe someday when I make it big on YouTube, I can get someone professional to redesign it, and I go, here's my theory, or here's what I want from. Yeah, here's what I want from my logo. H squared. And then there would be, where's the H2O?
What is that? Uh-oh, one of the pads on my
keyboard. I want to hop over to Metacritic for a second, because I want to check out Breath of the Wild here.
Yeah, it's going strong. I checked it when I got home.
Let's mute that. Forbes gives it 100. Games Revolution 100. IGN 100.
You'll see a lot of that.
Level Up 98. Nintendo World Report 95. Eurogamer Italy a lowly 90. Whew.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, it only got 90.
Like, I guess that's the point. But that's the thing, that the lowest it's received from anyone is a 90.
Yeah, if you go to the full screen where it has all,
that's where I'm at.
Has several 90s, but yeah, that's the low point.
Yeah. When your low is a 90, and in critical reviews, you're a 61 positive, 0 mixed, and 0 negative, you're in good shape. Well. You're doing well. You're doing very well at that point.
Unfortunately, Nintendo just won't shut up and take my money because I didn't pre-order it. There's about 0% chance I'll be able to get one.
I was going to say, Best Buy, Nintendo Switch.
Good luck with that.
Here we go. I want the console. Is the console here? Find an event near... Oh, go away. Nope, come back. Wrong. Find an event near you.
Wrong.
Select state, Indiana. How about the Castleton one?
No. Stupid ads.
You could go to a midnight event tonight.
Yeah, and they'll probably have like 3 left.
Just walk in the store tomorrow, and see if there's any. Just walk by the Switch area.
And they'll laugh at me.
I'm thinking once I get a new CPU and motherboard, I want to overclock the hell out of it until my current CPU dies or fries. I love it. Well, and the thing about those A8s is you could shove if you really want to, and leave the stock cooler on it too, so it'll either fry from electricity or it'll fry from heat. The A8 you could shove like, depending on the motherboard, like 1.7, 1.8 volts into it.
That's ridiculous.
Maybe even more, depending on if you have. I mean, if it's a budget board, it's not gonna let you do more. But I mean, up the crap out of the voltage and see what happens.
Why?
I mean, well, if you don't need it anymore and it has virtually no resale value because it's a 7850K and it's old architecture, and I guess why not? I mean, a better use would take the. I kind of want it to explode.
Get out of frying pan.
He said I kind of want it to explode.
Get out of frying pan. Get some bacon.
yeah. Take a little bit of like some sort of some like construction like caulk or something, and make a little like lip around the processor, and then dump just a little bit of egg in there. And see what happens. Just a little bit. Another guy, Iceman Z says, my board high-end Asus limits me to 1.55 volts. What was the voltage they were running that world record Ryzen at? Was it
1.875?
I was gonna say it was 1.8 something. So I guess maybe they use They might use custom BIOS when they're doing that, though. I never really thought about that.
Very well could.
If I do it, I'll record it and send it to you. If you do that, please do. Because look, upload it somewhere. The world will be a better place having an egg frying on an AMD CPU. The world would be a slightly brighter place. We all know it. That's phenomenal. I love that. Yeah, so Aaron, you can make your way. It's the Castleton would be the closest to me, but Noblesville. So there's an event in Noblesville.
Oh.
So there you go. Midnight event. Pop over there. Pick it up. Which Switch are you going to get?
I've been thinking about this, and probably the one with the colored remote, just because it'll be easy to tell left from right. I know that's maybe a stupid reason, but
I think it'll look kind of cool. You literally want to watch the world burn.
On top of an AMD processor.
On top of an AMD processor. Space heater jokes aside, Ryzen the temperature of Ryzen actually seems fairly solid.
Yeah, so far.
And what that's hard to say though, because I did one of the reviews mentioned that AMD's still using temperature sensors that are sort of similar to the ones they use in the FX series, where maybe they're not 100% accurate.
That's not good.
So if they're accurate though, the temperatures look pretty good. So who knows? So you want the colored, what is it, Joy-Con controllers?
Yes.
And I mean, I guess if you completely despise those, you can always just pick up a regular gray pair later on.
I don't think I'll despise them.
I don't think I wouldn't either. I think they kind of look cool too. I quite enjoy them. Are there how many games are launching with the Switch? There's
I honestly don't know.
Nintendo Switch games. I think what was it, like 5 or something stupid.
I feel like that was like the original.
Zelda. There's Zelda, Super Bomberman, 1-2 Switch. Snipper Clips, which is a $20 digital download from a digital store that doesn't exist, I guess. That's right. I forgot. They're doing the day one update thing. So right now there's no digital like store, but I heard that, or at least I feel like I heard that it's gonna be a day one update that adds that in. We live in a world where not only now games don't just need day one updates, but consoles have to have day one updates.
Wow.
Welcome to the gaming world we live in. I guess I can't be too mad. If it gets, I'm a little bit less upset about consoles because I feel like they're usually something like adding a digital store. That's fine. NBA 2K18 is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Huh.
That's weird.
That'd be popular.
That'd be good for LAN. Or
yeah,
like
it actually would be.
Multiplayer, I should say.
I saw that the Nintendo Switch is gonna be using for the friends, like you're gonna have like friend keys that you can like share, like kind of like a password maybe.
Well, I know on the 3DS they have friend codes, and I would assume it would be.
That was what it was. So what? How do friends code work? Do you know how those work?
Not entirely.
I actually, I opened up my Nerf case for my 3DS the other day, and I'd completely forgotten that my 3DXL is a blue one. I completely forgot that it was blue. And I looked at it. I took out the SD card to check it out, because now I have this spare SD card. It's 128 gig. It's actually a micro SD card, but it has an SD adapter, so you can use it like an SD card. And the reason it's spare now is because I was using it in my camera, but my camera would shut off or stop recording if I ran it at 1080p all eye setting. because the SD card's speed wasn't fast enough to keep up with the buffer. So the buffer would fill up, and when the buffer on a DSLR fills up, it just shuts off the recording. So I got a higher speed 64 gig card because I could record at a 1080p higher compression rate, but the video doesn't look quite as good.
Yeah.
So I got like a $25 64 gig higher speed card. But so, is there an ETA on when you're gonna get your Switch?
Eventually.
Eventually. Jeez.
Probably sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Is the Switch available on Amazon right now?
No, I believe they are sold out.
Currently unavailable with the gray Joy-Con. Yep, I would say it's sold out. I would say it is indeed sold out. Let's see if update, sign in, and it's still not yet shipped. Wah, wah.
Aww.
I'm really rooting for like one of these times. I really believe like I'm gonna click like refresh on Amazon and it'll say shipped, and I'll be like woo, and then tomorrow will be the happiest day of my life. But that just hasn't happened yet. Okay. Would you like to play a game of Rocket League?
A game or multiple games?
Probably multiple games.
Sure.
Okay.
One game probably isn't worth my...
That's fair. So we've talked about Ryzen, we talked about the Switch, we talked about Zelda a little bit. So that's going to be the stream. And no, I don't have any spare CPU. Actually, I do have a spare CPU. Problem is it's an A6. It's an older one than the one you have. So it's like a 50-something 100K. It used to run in my server. It's literally in a motherboard sitting not doing anything right now. Though Aaron, I did want to mention something to you. First of all, that cooler on that old APU may get yanked off if it beats my Noctua bracket. But the other thing, I can send you the link. Corsair has a free bracket available for AM4.
Well, there you go.
And they're the easiest I've seen so far. You don't even need proof of a purchase of a thing.
You just say, "Hey, I need this bracket."
He said I can fry that one too. No, yeah, with Corsair, you just fill out this short form, and what they do is they have their bracket on sale on their website, and for a limited time, they give you a discount code that takes the cost from $4.99 to $0, and they also have free shipping available. So with no proof of purchase of anything, you can just go to their website, use the code, and boom. So I went ahead and actually ordered the bracket, because I anticipate that I'm going to be getting no, but I do anticipate getting an AIO, and I want a Corsair one, and by having the bracket, then I don't have to get one of the ones that's already compatible, because then I can just buy whatever Corsair, AIO I want, and I have the bracket already.
Like my 105.
Right. And what I'll probably do is I'll probably limit my searches to 240 and 280 rad. To be honest, I'll probably get a 280.
Oh.
Just because I have that Cinder Boy, I have to have the best all the time, and if I spend $100 more to get 1800X, I might as well go ahead and spend another $30 on the cooler to make sure I have a little bit more headroom.
I mean, you don't have a great water cooler right now. You have that single rad, right? As your only water cooler. Yeah, and
it's probably outmatched by the 8350 right now, because the 8350 is clocked at 8.6. 8350s do not do well with a single rad, but that's okay. So I here in Discord I can probably shoot you that. By the way, Aaron, since I'm gonna wrap up this stream now,
Yeah.
since we've talked about our things. And I believe it's a highly successful stream.
Oh.
One in which we saw up to something like 10 concurrent viewers.
Oh, yeah.
But we had an engaged audience, and we got some serious good laughs. We should do this again, like once a week or something.
We could.
We should honestly pick a day that usually works. Because Thursday's not a good day to pick, actually, because Tech Talk is on later. Although, no, actually, Thursday may be the perfect day, because Tech Talk is coming to an end on Jay's 2 Cents channel. In fact, I think next week is the last week of Tech Talk ever.
Oh.
Actually, not ever. They've said that because Jay is moving into a new studio, and Barnacles is trying to like he's getting back into the swing of like doing his own thing, and he wants to start his own like live stream type thing. But because their schedules are just like apparently getting super busy, they said they're gonna put it on hold, and it may come back at some point. But they said for now it's just gonna be like on hold. So Thursday we can bat around the idea, but we've been on here for plenty of time, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. And those of you that watched along, have a great day, and those of you that are watching later, also have a great day. But also subscribe, like, share, comment. Dislike, actually, I recently heard that even dislikes get factored in a good way. So if you hate the stream, you can dislike that too. You know, the people that made it this time, they're just gonna dislike this out of spite. Freaking tools. Those of you in chat that followed along and interacted a little bit, I do appreciate that. That's always fun because that's where we get our great eggs on Ryzen or eggs on AMD jokes. So, peace out.